We're hopefully going to be that, one-stop podcast where they know they're going to come on and hear real information, not just the fluffy surface chit-chat. It's actual real life scenarios and real life feelings and stories and experiences and solutions as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Lessons podcast. Super excited. Steve is back from Vegas. He went over there for a course. I'm excited.
I survived.
You survived. Good to have you back. And we have a really awesome guest on today, someone who's really, really close with me personally as a friend, but we've also worked with Katie Dean, or today's guest is Katie Dean. So we've worked with Katie Dean for many years. You've actually known her for a lot longer than me, Steve.
Showing our age, but probably 15 years, I would say.
That sounds about right.
You guys are getting so old.
Yep.
Vintage.
Like a fine wine.
What year model are you, Katie?
Oh, I'm an 82 model.
Oh, I'm in a 79 model.
You are.
So.
Anyways.
Good year, that.
We're really, really excited that you're on the podcast today. We know you have so many amazing lessons. We actually hope to get you on again because there's a couple of really big life lessons that you've really helped me with and you help your audience with. So we hope that you'll come back on and visit. But today,
absolutely,
you've got
any chance to chat with you guys, I'm totally down for. Sign me up.
Amazing. So I'm just going to get straight into it, because I want to dive in nice and deep. Now, I obviously stalk your social media. I love listening to your podcast. I love reading all of your Instagram posts and connecting with you. I call you up when I feel like my life's a shambles and I need some advice. But something that you posted on your inspiring Instagram page not that long ago, I thought was really, really powerful. And it said, I've got it written here: exit gracefully, heal and grow, and don't look back. And the rest of the post made it clear that you were talking about love and relationships. And we love talking about love and relationships. It was one of our very first podcasts. We're very passionate about it. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people are not talking about it because, hashtag couple goals. Everyone wants to put on social media and in life that they're perfect and everything's smooth sailing. But in reality, it's not. And that sounds like a really great life lesson and so simple. But is it really? And is this something you've actually been able to do yourself?
Oh dear, all the mess. I am a solo mum to two little boys.
Beautiful little boys, but I might add.
Yeah. So in terms of becoming that solo parent, I separated from my then husband when I was 16 weeks pregnant with Oki. That was not something that I necessarily, I didn't see coming. I definitely, obviously there's signs there's red flags and there's things that we sugarcoat for ourselves and positive think over. But I definitely didn't wake up that day, 4 months pregnant, and have any inkling that was going to be the day that, I asked for the separation and the split. Now, while that decision was in that moment was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made, there was no gray area there. That was just like an out-of-body experience that you need to act now. You can't ignore the signs anymore. And it was honestly it was still an out-of-body experience. I stormed my highly nauseous self into the next room because that's where he was sleeping by that point. And all I could keep saying was, I can't. And that was that. But that being super simple, everything that unfolded after that.
The aftermath.
It's like you throw a grenade in the mix, and then all of a sudden this picture perfect life of my 1.5 children and my marriage and everything, I took a sledgehammer to it basically. But I had to, and but everything that comes after that, that's not a guaranteed, no one knows what's going to happen there.
I can imagine that, so much strength in you just to be able to pull the trigger on that. 4 months pregnant, one child.
Gosh.
How old was the first child at the time as well?
2.5.
2.5.
He was at that stage.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, the strength that you would have had to pull to do that would have been immense.
Well, so often we think that, when you're in a marriage and you're in a relationship and there's children involved, you're staying to keep the family unit together when things get rough. And every single person, regardless of whether you have a perfect, like awesome, super strong relationship, it's human nature to have exit thoughts at some point. You know, when things get tough, we mentally like prepare our exit strategies or, you know, all of that. And so much of like what I did was make all the problems my own. Like if I just did this, things would be different. If I fix this, things will be different. When in actual fact, a lot of the things that were going on within our relationship, it was out of my control. But for me to try and handle it, all I could manage was to try and make it my own. And if I did this, and if I showed up this way, and if I just sweep this under the rug and we pretend that didn't happen and all this sort of things, it'll be okay and it'll be in the best interests of everyone, especially the children. But then when you realize that, and you ask the universe for signs, which I'm sure so many of us do, like we're like, speak to beyond or whoever that is for you, then you've got, if you get to that point where you're asking that question, then you've got to be willing to see what shows up.
For sure.
And in the 48 hours.
Was it a particular, sorry, cutting in, was it a particular event that made you pull the trigger on that, or did it just come to you overnight or something like that?
Or was it built up?
Or was it built up? Yeah.
It built up. But there was 48 hours where there was like a series of 3 or 4 events that went down where that ended up with me sitting in bed feeling so frustrated and so mad and angry that I was sitting there so mad and sad and frustrated again, that the realization that I can't positive think my way out of this. I can't change anything that's going on. This isn't because of anything external. This is what it is. And that's not going to change. No matter what I did, like I couldn't do anymore. And that now staying in the relationship wasn't helping the children. And me feeling this way with a baby, that wasn't anything new. I had the best thing that I could do for the highest good for all involved was to call it. And that was really rough because, you know, like I was talking about those exit strategies that we have, or like, you know, you're mentally in arguments and these issues keep coming up. You weigh the odds and it's like, do I stay and fight another day, or do we hit it and quit it? You know what I mean? Like, do we cut our losses? And we'd spoken about that at different times, but it was always coming back together and coming back together.
Yeah. Which shows loyalty and commitment, which is what you want in a relationship.
Yeah. And we were definitely in it. Otherwise we wouldn't have gone through, like Oki was IVF as well, like our second baby. So we were in it. But then it's like eventually you've got to look at the signs and look at what's actually going on and the effect that it's having on the children. And what's better for them is just this is not good.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, this has to stop.
And if it's affecting mum so badly, it affects the kids so badly. And I'm all for taking responsibility in the relationship. We always need to step up and own our actions, but at the end of the day, it does take 2 to tango. And if one's not coming to the party, and if things are not changing and the bad is outweighing the good, like no relationship's perfect, right? Everyone has their ups and downs and challenges, and
totally,
we're the first to talk about that and teach our lessons and to step up and grow and get uncomfortable. But if they're not changing and you really can know that within you, like you've hit your threshold. You hit your threshold where you went,
totally.
I'd
hit the threshold and bounced back several times. like it was like very crash test dummies in my way. Like, whoa. But so much of, like, if I'm being really honest, what keeps you in that, you know, that fighting, like, was, you know, like I was also worried why I was staying there. Like, what will people think? Like, how could I do this? Like, what would this even look like? I don't even know. And this was the sort of thoughts that were coming in the last, you know, the 48 hours before. But then that final thing was, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just don't care. It does not matter what's best for myself and for my babies. is to
leave.
split. And so that.
So do you feel that obviously now you can look at it objectively and say that this person wasn't for you? Like you can just clearly see that you made a wrong match. Could you see that how you got to that point at the start of the relationship, that maybe he wasn't showing his true face, or wearing we always talk about wearing a mask at the start.
Yeah, especially at the start.
Like when you meet someone at the start, you've got your best face forward, and we call it a mask. But do you feel like he had a mask on and you didn't quite connect with the real person at the start?
I saw this meme the other day, and it had a man holding a dozen what would have been red roses, and instead it was like a dozen red flags, and he's presenting it to the woman, and she's like, "Thank you, I love them." Yeah. I'm like, okay, I can see now hindsight.
Yep.
That's who it was. But that's not his fault either. That's mine.
That's the game. It's the game.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it. He definitely, had that best foot forward, and we went overseas and left really early on. But I so desperately and badly wanted to feel loved and wanted and secure. And that was there. And there was there was such great elements, and we had a really great time. We were married for almost 5 years within that, and traveled the world and did all of those things. But as we grow as people, I'm definitely, as I started to step into my strengths and realize who I was, and especially becoming a mum, and then other things that are out of my control, that because people are human, they make mistakes. Once they show up, it's really hard to get trust back.
It's hard to ignore it, isn't it?
It's hard to ignore it. And then you can sweep certain things under the rug, or you just choose not to focus on them. But trust is a really hard thing to get back.
It is.
Really hard. And then if it keeps getting shattered and smashed, eventually you just can't keep putting back the pieces. You just have to,
Definitely. As a woman, I feel like a lot of women these days do stay in relationships out of fear of not feeling safe and financially secure. I've got girlfriends that, are too scared to leave or have been in situations. Did that pop up for you? Like, I need to stay because financially I need to look after my boys and I need to make sure that we have a house. What can you go into those fears that popped up for you as a mum?
It did. It definitely wasn't the financial side of things for me that kept me there as much, but the emotional stability that I really was. I didn't know how to do that on my own. I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't. It definitely wasn't financial, because I knew that I would always do whatever I needed to do. But I can so see, and there's been moments where, like, especially as an author, like, you don't make a shitload of money from books.
Yeah.
Like, that's a tricky slog. And there's moments where I've definitely, like, looked at the bank account and I'm like, yeah, this is rough. Or like all the other kids the other day at preschool were getting Fitbits. They've all got Fitbits. Like, I don't know. Like, and then Archer had that moment where he came to me and was like, well, why don't I have a Fitbit? And I'm like, I can't. That was one of those moments where you're just like, well, Mummy can't afford to just go out and get you a Fitbit.
Mummy needs to put food on the plate.
Yeah. So there's all those elements. So I can totally see how that's really rough, and it's hard, really hard, when I'm the only single one out of all of my friends, and everyone's having babies and they're all couples, like all of my friends.
Happy families.
And everyone goes on couples holidays and everyone's going caravanning, but I can't drive a fucking caravan. Like, I can't back a caravan, like all those sort of logistics.
Yep.
And it's like, I've taken up skateboarding because, usually it's the dad that does like the manly sports and things like that. But I don't want to be left in the car reading a Take 5 magazine while the boys are at the skate park. And I'm just like, so it's like having to morph into those roles and do things and try and be all of that when you just can't. So you've also got to make peace with the fact that you know, they have a dad.
Yeah.
He's a great dad to them. Yeah, but yeah, it's like, it's messy. There's so much to consider.
Yeah.
If you are going to leave any relationship, friendship,
Definitely.
or anything like that. It's never a cookie cutter split,
Clean
because
slice,
there's so much more that comes to it.
And
it's like, it's messy.
Always is. And throughout this whole process, because this has been going on a couple of years,
Yes.
if you could pinpoint just one moment, one day, one situation that you really felt like you were just drowning and you don't know how you're going to make it out today, take us to that moment.
I know exactly that moment.
Wow.
Because I was so early pregnant with Oki. He was 3 weeks old and I had a cesarean with him, and I was covered in vomit and still had the like gauze on my stomach, and it was like all bloody and everything. And then to have the conversation that with my ex-partner that he's met someone, he wants to introduce her to the boys.
Wow.
3 weeks old, this happened.
3 weeks old. And he was coming to pick up my eldest son, you know, and he wants her. They've actually met, like my eldest, who's now 3. And so to be standing there, I'll never forget it. Honestly, felt like the ground had been ripped out from underneath me, to like, I'm literally bleeding and weeping from birthing our child, and you're wanting to bring another woman into the fold for these boys. And then all the fears start coming up for that. Like, who is she? Like, is she kind? Is she this? What is this going to mean for them? Like, what are they going to think what are the sleeping arrangements going to be? Like, you know, like all the thoughts that just snowball in that moment. And I'm looking at my little baby who's barely opening his eyes and imagining that he's now going to meet a potential another mother. Like, even though that wasn't what it was like, and it had been 6 months since we'd separated, in fairness, like, and my ex-partner could have done whatever he wanted. He wasn't doing anything wrong. But that, you can't prepare for that.
That's a mother's instinct right there, isn't it? It's totally normal, and you can see that it's totally understandable.
I still remember you telling me this story, and I'm glad we dove into it, because it is just so real. And when you told me, I can't help but just put myself in your situation and try to feel what that would feel like. And it's just sickening. And that protective mother instinct that comes in, like another woman being around my little boy and not knowing, is he sleeping? Is he getting enough attention? What are they feeding him? Is she going to hit him when I don't believe in hitting? Or so many fears come up, and it's that sense of almost control too. Like, you want to protect him and be that all for him. And or even the hormones after having a baby, just an emotional wreck. That newborn stage, hats off to mums who glow through it. I found it so friggin' hard. We both did. It even scares me to go back as much as I want another baby. Like, me and Steve openly talk about how much we just hated the newborn stage. So to have to go through a breakup and a new woman stepping in, I can't even imagine. I'm not surprised you brought that up as your toughest moment.
It was revolting in terms of what we're meant to be able to feel and deal with as a human. That was a real tipping point, to the point where it threw my anxiety over like the edge. I had to get my mum. I couldn't shower. Like,
I wouldn't be able to either.
I was like, okay, in the moment I was okay, but it was the snowball effect of the what ifs. And while I knew Archer would never be put in danger, it was just a whole other thing of elements that are out of your control. And it was just the thought of my children being taken away from me, even though that wasn't what's happening. I can see now. And the more people that love my children, the better. Getting to that place, that took a minute. Like
a minute or few.
Yeah.
So what's next for Katie Dean as far as love? I mean, obviously you've gone through a transition, and how do you move through to the next step to finding are you open for love? Or is that something
I would love to welcome some love into my life for sure. Now, it's been 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in December. I would love that. I've learned more about relationships since not being in one, and we were just talking about my podcast, like the cringeworthy moments where you have the realizations of the way that I've been showing up, or the way that I project or have projected onto other people. That's really like confronting.
Yeah, and I think like that's where you get the gifts as well. Like you'll find when you meet your new partner, and I'm sure you will find love. You'll be thanking your ex for the lessons that he taught you, and also that relationship. And that's where I find the real power in past relationships, and when you can really heal as well, like really heal that past pain and blames and victims and all that sort of stuff that is so normal to feel, but really it's just a lesson and it's a place to find growth, and your new partner will get the benefit of that, and they and also your family as well. I mean, your children will see the loving relationship that they deserve to see,
and they'll role model that too, which is a beautiful gift.
And they'll role model.
Through all of this, though, because we like to ask, what is your biggest lesson through all this process that you've been through, all of this pain, all of this fear, all of this growth, this change? What's been your biggest lesson that our listeners, there might be other women out there who are in similar situations that just go, oh, what did she learn through this? Like, what's the outcome? What's been your biggest lesson so far?
It's undoubtedly been to back myself and not allow any of my decisions to be impacted by what anyone else thinks. Like to give less shits or no shits about what I believe is best for me and for my family. So really, so that's without a doubt. So
if you would have had that lesson earlier, how would that have changed the way that you ran your last relationship?
Ooh. It's hard because if it all hadn't have unfolded how it unfolded, I wouldn't have Oki.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there probably would have been, there may not have been a relationship, or Archer for that matter. Yeah. Like there's been plenty of things along the way where that you get presented with that fork in the road, and your decision to go a certain way is impacted by a whole myriad of different things. And had I been the person that I am now, there's no way I would have potentially stayed or pursued that path.
Yes.
But I wasn't. I definitely wasn't. And it's because of those situations and those circumstances that have made me who I am. So there's a quote that's like, we can't hate the person we are now. We can't love the person we are now by not loving the things that have shaped us
so
to
when
become
you're
that person.
In a new relationship, like when, the time comes when you've found a new person and everything's great and everything's fine, and there always comes a period, say I always say a 3-year mark, where the mask comes off and you start hitting some challenges and some forks in the road, and it always happens. How will you deal with that? Because that's going to be a scary part for you. You're going to go, here we go again. What's going on? Like, obviously, you're going to need to sometime push through some challenges and not go the other way. Like, how do you think you're going to handle that differently this time?
Hopefully, like my communication style is going to be very different.
Love that.
Yep.
Instead, I think I have communicated, I know I had communicated from a place of fear and lack. So instead of expressing what I need or what I'd love or what they can do to make me feel most comfortable, it would for sure it would have been, you're not doing this,
Yes.
Like, why are you doing this, instead of taking ownership of how I feel, what I need, and I would also be way more considerate of my gifts, of what I can give,
That's awesome.
which I never really was aware before. Like, how can I support you?
I think
more?
we've had a lot of that this year too for our own personal relationship.
Yeah.
Like as far as being honoring ourselves in our own relationship with each other, ourselves, but then bringing that to the relationship.
And so much changes. Like, I don't know if you listened to our first podcast, but we've been together for 10 years now, and our relationship coach has said to both of us, it's almost like you're divorcing your old marriage and you are falling in love with a new person, because who I was at 20 to who I am at 30 and a mother, I'm completely different. And what I needed from Steve back then is so different to what I need now, and vice versa. Like, it's crazy the amount of change you have to go through, but it's so cool when you can honor and acknowledge what you need, because when you get what you need, you just sparkle and you bring that into your relationship. And when you're thinking about the other person, like, there's just so much growth and change in relationship. It really is a tricky dance, and we don't get taught any of this in school, you know, or from our most of our parents are divorced and not living a great relationship. I didn't even know many couples around me that I'm like, wow, actual couple goals. You guys are so connected and vulnerable to each other and speaking each other's love languages and, you know, meeting each other's human needs. Like, there isn't many that I would look at and go, killing it. You know, it's hard.
But how great that we all learn how to square dance.
Yeah.
Like at school, like, honestly, like, you know, like, and why, don't even get me started. But that's it. It's like, it's this constant dance. And then now what I'm really finding is that now that I'm curious to looking to meet someone, that I'm not calling in the same sorts of situations, because, and I've watched my friends have these beautiful, like you guys, how you guys communicate and you meet each other in the middle, and other friends who have people pursuing them and really wanting them. See, I don't think I've had that.
I honestly believe the best relationships are formed when you're in a relationship to give love, not get. And whenever you're in a relationship to get love, it always comes from that first stage that we talked about. And when you're in a place of giving love, you're all fulfilled. You know who you are. You've got your, like you talked about before, your gifts that you give to a relationship. And if you've got two people that do that at the same time, that is passion. That is a beautiful relationship.
Definitely. Before we head off, I just want to ask one more question. So I know there's a lot of female followers, and I get messages on the daily, I'm sure you do, from other women who might be stuck in a relationship, might be unsure, might be knowing that it's just not right, but they can't seem to find the strength and find the tools or find a way to go, no, this is enough. Like, what piece of advice would you give to women who are in that, like, oh, I need to get out, but I just can't seem to actually find the strength to do it?
Get really crystal clear. Sorry, my leg was cramping. Get really clear on your why. Like, why are you asking the question? Like, generally, if you're asking the question, you know the answer. But if you have like I would not advise anyone to have to go through this whole solo parenting thing or a separation if there's any chance or hope that you guys can make it work. So have a look at how you've shown up, and have you exhausted all of the other options in terms of crystal clear communication, open, non-judgmental communication, and, you know, doing the work, reaching out to coaches. If you guys have been if it's been a long-term relationship, or especially if there's a family involved, like we did all that had all been done. So I know I can consciously, we tick those boxes, but get really clear on why you feel you need to leave and what that's going to look like for you, and make sure that you're okay with that decision. Like, I feel like it would have been a lot harder if I was still seesawing, you know, like if it was maybe not, well, I better just do this just in case. There's no question that what I had to do was 100% the right choice. but I didn't know that up until that moment. So there's also that stay in it until you have that clear-cut knowledge that that's what you're meant to do either way. Because I really do believe that we get the answers that we need to have when we need to have them.
Yeah.
But you could be robbing a great relationship of a chance to thrive if you've got one foot out the door already before, you know, but at the same time, it's such a personal thing. If you've got one foot out the door, then get really clear about what's stopping you.
And I give I give that advice to my girlfriends too, or if I've had them that are going through a rough time, I said, don't ever leave unless you are 100% certain that this is the right decision. If there is still that love, that hope, that drive that you want to make this work, and they're willing to come to meet you in the middle, then try, because sometimes you think that you're just going to meet someone else and it's going to be perfect and you're not going to come across these problems. And a lot of the time it is our own wounds that we're not healing, and it's really important to, I feel like, to stick it out too until you get to that point where you're like, I know this is not serving me or the children or the other partner.
Yeah,
that's great advice,
because that's what it is. Like it's a soul contract of some sort that we come together. And I don't believe for a second that my marriage failed. That's just not in my radar. Never has been. It ended. There's no failure.
It's all part of the journey.
That's it. And I mean, every relationship ends. Someone leaves or someone dies. Like that's just
true.
How's that for a little?
Oh God.
Put that in the sound bite of this.
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, bum bum.
Truth bomb.
Later. But what we choose to make of that story, that situation, that breakup, whatever, that's what's going to fuel us. That's where whether we thrive afterwards or we take something from, you know, someone upending everything, what we get from that depends on how we look at it and how we choose to process it. And I also, like, there are exceptions to the rule. Like some people are complete douchebags and you shouldn't be there. Like you don't stay. Like if you know, but you're perhaps scared that there's not going to be someone else out there, but you know that this person's not right for you. And run, like grab your things and run. Or if it's a not safe situation, plan your safe exit first. There are amazing people out there who can help you do that. But if it's just you've reached challenges, then, you know, eat them for breakfast. See what you can do.
Lean into it.
Lean into it. Don't lean away. Because, you know, it may just be, like you said, there's several marriages within a marriage.
There really is.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's always that.
Really,
but then again, could end up having heaps of fun like me. No, I'm kidding.
If there's any single men on this listening to this podcast,
Katie Dean is a catch.
She's a catch.
I would snap you up in a second.
Also,
thanks, guys. Do you know anyone, Steve?
I'll put my
matchmaker, baby.
I'll have a think.
Oh God, help us.
But to wrap up the podcast, I'd love to share with everyone what you do and what you can offer anyone who's interested, some of your services, because we all love what you do. So would you
and we're all for coaches and mentors and books and learning and growth, and I know that you are too. So share with everyone what you do.
Yeah, so I'm an author. I've my first book was released last year, Becoming Brave, and it's a sassy woman's guide for turning fear into bravery, which, you know, I wrote that through this whole situation. So it's got a lot in there around basically allowing you to see your fear a different way. That's something that I'm hugely passionate about. I'm also a mindset and motivation coach. So helping people to reframe and see things a different way, and, you know, helping people see that the biggest event in their life doesn't have to stay that way, and finding ways through their blocks. Plus, I'm also in the Worldwide Squad Forum as your resident wellness coach, which I love in there.
And we love having you.
I love the girls in there. You guys have done such a beautiful job in that community. They're thriving.
They are. They're amazing. They're so inspiring.
And what is the best way to contact you if someone? I mean, we'll leave in the show notes all your details. But what would be the best way?
I love Instagram. I'm Katie Dean _your_wildlife, or over at my website, katiedean.com.au. And yeah, come and have a chat, reach out, leave a comment. I love the comments.
Me too.
Yeah.
Comment section's the best. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know so many people are going to get so much out of this and really connect with you. And I hope they connect with you outside this podcast too. So thank you so much, Katie.
And
Thanks for having me, guys.
Eagerly watching socials to see if any love pops up on your
Yeah.
So funny. That'll be
coming soon. Imagine. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And if anyone, we'd love to hear all your feedback, comment on the Instagram page. Please subscribe to this podcast. And we really appreciate everyone's support. I mean, we're on #1 on the education platform for iTunes, which is pretty cool.
Pretty amazing. And yeah, like Katie.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like Katie, we love seeing the comments on the Lessons Podcast Instagram. So jump over and come say hey.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Katie. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Lessons Podcast. And remember, we'd love to hear from you. So please jump on over to our Lessons Podcast Insta page to tell us what you think.
Plus, if you share a screenshot of the episode on your Insta stories and tag our Lessons Podcast Instagram, you'll automatically get a 20% discount off the entire range of Hideaway bath and body products.
Don't forget to join us on the Lessons Podcast next week for another inspiring guest and fantastic life lesson. If you think you've got a lesson to share, we'd love to hear from you. Hit the link in the description box to get in touch. Bye.